Hey guys, today we are making the outfit for our custom Mars Argo doll, so let's get started. If you have not seen part 1, go check that out. The link is down in the description. Otherwise, I will just jump right into it and tell you I am making her hat out of an old glove from like the dollar store. I am sewing the hole closed that I made when I cut off the fingers and just kind of molding that to her head and seeing how it fits and how I like it. Folding it up to give it that brim that her hat has in the outfit I just showed you guys. And just a lot of messing around with it to make sure her hair looks good in it. And I'm probably going to mess it up as the video goes on, but we'll fix it. Next is the skirt. I found a similar cotton that I already had, so I'm just using that. And I used the lid of a McDonald's cup as a template for a circle skirt. I just cut around it and then I cut a hole in the middle of it so that, yeah, it would look like a circle skirt. I did have to cut the back open so I could slide it on her. And if you had any Velcro or little zippers or anything, you could make this removable. I didn't bother because this outfit wasn't really that much of a challenge to make. But if I made any of her other outfits in the future, I would probably put Velcro or a zipper so I could switch her outfit out. And I'm just sewing up the back with it inside out and already on her. And you'll see this stitch I do a lot where I just push the needle through the fabric and it stitches all the way across. It is a lifesaver for sewing little details. And I finished off that stitch and that was all we needed to get the bottom of the skirt. Her skirt has a little bit of a band on it, so I'm cutting a strip of the same fabric and just kind of folding it over to make like a bias tape almost. And I'm just going to pin that in place for now because we're going to have to put her shirt on and then pin it where we want it. But for now, that'll just hold it together and give me an idea of what it looks like, which is cute. So for the shirt, I just found a scrap of flannel that I had. It's just white, regular old cheap flannel. And I will link this pattern below, but it said it didn't have seam allowance. It's actually for a male doll. But I found that because the female dolls are smaller, I didn't need to add any seam allowance, so I just cut out the pieces how they were for her shirt. This part was surprisingly easier than I thought it would be. These pieces aren't as small as they look, so it was pretty manageable. I made sure I remembered which piece of the shirt was the front and which one was the back, and I actually flipped it on the doll so that the higher piece, which is usually the back, was in the front. And I lined up all the pieces and sewed them together with the same stitch I used on her skirt. I slowed down the footage from some of my other footage for this tutorial and for part 1 so you could really see how it's going and how I'm sewing things together. So I apologize if I am not just full of commentary for all this stitching, but it's really straightforward, just stitching across the sleeve here. But I'm also making sure that when I attach the sleeves, I turn the bodice of the shirt inside out first, and then I also turn the sleeve inside out, or I guess right side out. And you have to line it up and think about if you had a regular shirt inside out, the sleeves would be inside of it. So I do the same thing when I'm sewing the sleeves onto any clothes or any doll clothes so that I don't accidentally have a sleeve inside out and the wrong way when I turn everything right side out. For the collar, I used a piece of white felt and I just cut out like a collar shape, measuring it against her. I'm sorry, my voiceovers are usually recorded like in the afternoon and I did this one in the morning. I am half asleep still and my voice is not really there yet, so I'm sorry. But I cut the collar down and I wrapped it around, made sure it was the right size, trimmed it down as I needed it, and then I cut a slit in the shirt the same way I did for the skirt so that that would be the front because she has a button-up shirt. And then I just sort of trim the sleeves down a little. I didn't cut into the stitching, otherwise the stitching would come undone. But then I just put her hand back on afterwards. I didn't really need to take her hands off, but it just made it easier. And I could really tell how long I wanted the sleeves to be at that point. So I did the same with the other side, popped her hand back in, And then I really figured out how I wanted the shirt to look on her, where I wanted it to be wrinkled. I unpinned that band for now so I could just mess with it. And I folded over one of the sides of the shirt so that it would look like a finished edge when I sewed it. And then I just pinned that in place. And I took my thread and stitched up the front of it. I wish I had some little buttons to glue on, but I didn't. But the white thread didn't really show that much anyway, so it didn't look like weird with the stitching on the front and no buttons. But you could still kind of tell that it was supposed to be like a button-up shirt because of where the stitches were placed. And I think it still came out pretty alright. When that stitching was done, I kept the thread right in the shirt still. I didn't cut it or anything. And I attached the collar in the same way, making sure the little lapels are in the front where I want them, and kind of gathering the material in the back as I go, because this wasn't a stretchy material, so it sort of gathers where I had to cut it with the pattern so it would fit around her neck. So I just kind of gathered it where I wanted the little wrinkles in the shirt, and then I lined up the collar and attached it all the way around, and I ended up not having enough thread by the time I was done with this for some reason. So I kind of just tucked the thread in there. I don't think she's going to be having any rigorous shirt pulling, so I don't think it's going to come undone. But for your tutorial following and sewing shirts, make sure you get enough thread. But then I figured out where I wanted the shirt wrinkled in the back, and then I added that band again. I put down her arms to make sure that it really fit no matter what pose she was in, and I put a little stitch in the back just to pin it where I wanted it, and I'm using a black thread again because I found that that really doesn't show on this fabric. And she has these little tails that are almost like the Sailor Moon bow tails. So I'm going to cut one of them and tuck it in so that you don't really see it. So I'm cutting it like really short. I'm taking the short tail and adding another couple of stitches to pin it in place. And then I'm really making sure it's trimmed down as small as I can get it so that it doesn't show. And then I am adding a couple more stitches just to pin it in place. You never can have too many stitches. And then I'm going to take the long band and wrap it all the way around her just so it makes the band a little thicker, and I can make sure everything is covered and it looks very neat. And I don't have to worry about the tail in the back looking like choppy because I can cover it all up with that piece of fabric, as you will see. I wrapped it all the way around. I cannot talk today, I'm so sorry. But I wrapped it all the way around and then I stitched it in place again. And that really concluded the outfit portion, like the clothing. I just had to make sure I got some really good stitches in there so that all the fabric was tight and it would look nice. Once everything was stitched together, I went ahead and cut off any loose threads around her and repositioned her arm. And then I tucked the bottom of the skirt down under the waistband because it came loose. And then I found these little hair clips just in my stash of old child hair clips, and I combined them to make something that looks sort of like the hair clip she has on her hat. I couldn't get anything quite perfect that wasn't a giant hair clip, so this is the best we're doing. And then I clipped that onto her hat, and then I found a little bracelet that I had that had rhinestones on it, and I broke that up and put it on her arm, and then she was complete. I put on the black slippers shoes that I had, and you can see the full look here. And ta-da! She looks very good, I think, for just using stuff I had around the house. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more crafty content. And I will see you guys next week. Bye!